Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are exploring something absolutely profound. We're talking about the journey of individuation, the death of the false self. What if I told you that the person you're most afraid to become is exactly who you're meant to be? Seriously, we aren't talking about becoming your best self today. We're talking about becoming your real self. Based on the groundbreaking psychology of Carl Jung, we're going to walk through the high-stakes, brutal, yet unimaginably beautiful process of excavating your true identity. It requires stepping right into the fire, confronting your absolute darkest corners, and ultimately allowing your false self to die. Okay, let's dive into this. Whose life am I really living? It's a question that tends to creep up in the middle of the night, right? In those quiet moments of stillness when your smile kind of just fades, you tell yourself you're doing everything right, that you're keeping it all together, but there's this quiet, aching hollowness. You suddenly realize you aren't actually living a life, you're just executing a performance. You've spent years being presentable, being normal, but underneath all that, you're quietly falling apart because the life you're living isn't actually yours. Every calling lies hidden in the shadow of the mask. That's Carl Jung. Just let that sink in for a second. We spend so much energy trying to outrun our darker, unpolished traits. But Jung understood that the very parts of yourself you banished, the parts you exiled away from the public eye, the parts that desperately want to create or speak the truth or fiercely break the rules, those are actually the exact keys to your ultimate liberation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the great divide happening inside your mind right now, the persona versus the shadow. On one side, we've got the socially acceptable, safe mask. It's obedient, it's quiet, it's agreeable. On the other side is the intense, buried reality of the human psyche, the anger, the ambition, the wildness. You were told those traits were just way too much. So what did you do? You split yourself right in half just to survive.
That agreeable side of you is what Jung called the persona. It's a carefully constructed mask designed to be accepted, liked, and safe, which over time completely fuses with your identity. Ever since you were a kid, you've been trained to play roles, haven't you? The obedient son, the quiet daughter, the responsible student. You got praised when you were polite and punished when you were loud, so you learned to hide all that internal chaos beneath a fake smile. At first, it was just a smart survival strategy to get through the day. But over time, a really dangerous fusion happens. You literally trick yourself into believing this carefully constructed mask is who you actually are. Now, the persona isn't evil. We all need a way to function in society, for sure. But the moment you forget it's just a role, you lose access to your full self. You start censoring your thoughts, you start dulling your instincts. You might call it professionalism or being nice, but in truth, it's self-abandonment. You are paying for your social acceptability with your very soul, completely confusing the act of fitting in with the profound feeling of true belonging, because survival is absolutely not the same as living. So where did all those messy, intense parts of you go? Well, they didn't just disappear. They sank into the unconscious. This is the shadow. It's the unconscious dimension of the psyche where every denied, suppressed, and feared part of yourself is exiled. It's the vault where you locked it all away. But here's the terrifying truth. The parts you pushed down didn't die. No way. They just went underground, and now they are secretly running the show. They show up as explosive anger out of nowhere, sudden anxiety, massive self-sabotage, and that unexplained emptiness we were just talking about. Which brings us to this incredibly profound point from Carl Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Without doing the shadow work, what we firmly believe are rational, logical choices are actually just unconscious compulsions. It's your wounded, repressed inner world projecting itself onto absolutely everything you see, basically masquerading as a life plan. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it totally flips our understanding of what's dark. The shadow doesn't just hold monsters, it holds the raw instinct and power necessary to live fully. Look at this. Your repressed anger, when you integrate that, it becomes your ability to set firm boundaries. Your forbidden ambition transforms into unstoppable drive. Your hidden desire becomes pure vitality, and your weirdness is actually the source of your truest originality. You didn't lose your power at all. You just locked it in the shadow. But if integrating the shadow is so powerful, why do most of us run from it? It's because of these 4 existential fears. These are the invisible chains keeping you exhausted and divided. First, I'll become a bad person. We fear claiming our darker impulses makes us immoral. Second, I'll be rejected. We fear stopping the performance means ultimate rejection. Third, I'll hurt others. We worry our own power might crush people. And fourth, the most terrifying one, I don't know who I am without my defenses. The fear of total identity collapse. If I'm not the nice guy or the perfect daughter, who am I? Let's look closer at that fear of our own power. We often associate power with domination or violence, right? So we decide, hey, it's safer to be small and harmless. But denying your power doesn't make you peaceful. It actually makes you weak and resentful. Unexpressed energy doesn't just vanish. It leaks out sideways as poison. Power denied becomes passive aggression, sarcasm, manipulation, and self-sabotage. But when power is integrated, it becomes pure clarity. It becomes boundaries. It becomes the ability to take up space without a single apology. Confronting all of this is what Jung called individuation. And let me be clear, this is not a peaceful weekend yoga retreat. This is a cinematic descent right into the unknown. It is the psychological journey of excavating your whole self, light and dark, noble and animal. But to actually claim that wholeness, you have to go through a brutal, symbolic death. The false identity, that mask you've worn your entire life, literally has to die. Your ego is going to panic. It will feel like total annihilation, but I promise you, it is actually a rebirth. Because this process is so terrifying, it almost never happens voluntarily. It usually starts with a crisis. You probably know this feeling, a really painful breakup, a sudden period of intense burnout, maybe a massive panic attack. You might feel like your life is completely falling apart, but that is just the psyche cracking open, demanding to be made whole. What feels like a devastating breakdown is actually a vital, incredibly necessary psychological breakthrough. Let's move to and see how this builds from abstract theory into a concrete, real-world quest. Jung knew that theory without embodiment is just another form of avoidance, right? To actually integrate the shadow, you have to step into the fire of your own discomfort through action. So here is the path to integration. Pull back your projections, active imagination, micro-experiments in embodiment, the ritual death of the persona, and daily shadow journaling. Let's dig into a couple of the most crucial ones. The first crucial step is moving from projecting to reclaiming. Think of the traits that absolutely trigger you in other people. Arrogance, laziness, selfishness. Jung taught that what you harshly judge in others is usually just a mirror of your own unconscious. So you have to violently turn that mirror onto yourself. Ask yourself, where does this impulse live in me? Reclaiming that exiled power means realizing you aren't at war with other people. You are actually at work with your own psyche. Another vital phase on this path is the ritual death of the persona, and this is deeply important. The unconscious mind doesn't respond well to just intellectual thoughts. It understands ritual far more deeply than words. It requires visceral, physical acts. You have to identify the role you've been playing, like the high achiever or the caregiver, and perform a ritual. Write a physical goodbye letter to that false self. Thank it for protecting you all these years, and then literally burn it. The smoke, the fire, the finality, that is a language your deepest psyche understands. When you do this messy, beautiful work, the aftermath is unmistakable. These are the signs of a reborn whole self. You become wildly less predictable because you're no longer available for performance. The fake smiles, gone. You become more polarizing because authenticity naturally repels the fake. You become less defensive, gaining an inner stability that criticism just can't shatter. And most importantly, you get reclaimed energy. All that life force you previously spent suppressing yourself comes rushing back. You're going to feel intense, overwhelming emotions, and you'll realize the ultimate danger was never feeling too much, but the psychological numbness you were trapped in before. So, the crucial point is this: you are becoming the person you used to fear. True psychological liberation isn't about being perfect. It is about unapologetic wholeness. It's about ending the exhausting performance of hiding. When you stop betraying yourself just to be accepted, you might look in the mirror and realize you're becoming the very person you used to be terrified of. Someone who is intense, honest, and entirely alive. You aren't a monster. You are yourself, finally emerging from the shadow. Welcome